What's up, guys? My name is Rob, and this is Rob on the Run podcast, a running podcast for all healthy lifestyles. And today we have a great guest. His name is Aaron. Aaron, how are you doing today?
Hey, Rob. I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. A little late. I got tied up with work. Unfortunately, I get out at 6 o'clock, and sometimes everything usually is very nice and smooth. And then when I have a recording, all hell breaks loose. So I had a couple tasks that I had to take care of before, but we're here, we're ready, and we have Aaron, and we have a lot to talk about. Aaron is from Austin. That's what I know for sure. He's a coach, and he's a very established runner as well, and he has his own run group. So I always like to start with the easiest questions, or maybe the hardest. You never know. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your running journey. How did this running journey start for you in the way you started it, I guess?
Yeah, I mean it's been a fun journey. A little bit of everything in the last few years, but originally I started as a soccer player, and I know you hear a lot of soccer players turn into good runners, and I graduated. I grew up south of Houston and graduated in 1999, and got a scholarship to go play soccer in college in upstate South Carolina. At the time, it was Limestone College, and then became an early father, and I didn't run for a long time.
Oh, wow.
I actually didn't. But trying to get that fitness back. Years later, my daughter actually, we talked her into selling her Xbox to start skateboarding, and I walked around it. I think I graduated high school at like 160 pounds. I didn't weigh anything, and then got to college, and then when I got back, we started skateboarding, and the pounds just fell off. I mean, I lost like almost 45 pounds.
Oh, wow.
And then I ran on the roads like a couple times, and my wife got a membership to Planet Fitness, and we went and I ran on the treadmill, and I was like, I'm going to go pretty hard. And I think I ran like a 7:22 mile, and she was like, man, screw you. And then it kind of started from there, just started to run a little bit more. That was the fun thing is, so I was like, man, I still got some wheels, so my daughter started running, and we signed up for our first 5K in 2018.
Okay.
And we all signed up, and we're like, okay, everybody's going to go out there. We're all going to run our times. Everybody's going to run as hard as they can. And I ran a 22:52 or something like that in my first 5K.
Yeah.
So I've always been very competitive. Like I said, started with soccer. I used to play baseball. I ran track in middle school, but that was the end of my running career. I focused on soccer, but that first 5K, that's really what got the juices going.
Nice. And it's funny because not a lot, I should say, some of my guests have had some sort of soccer background. So it's funny because most people that don't play the sport or don't follow the sport of soccer, depending on the position you play, you can run 3-4 miles in one game. Especially the midfielders that are always back and forward from defense to offense all the time. They definitely run a lot more than what you expect. And like I mentioned to you, a lot of people don't realize that. I came from a soccer background. That's where I used to do most of my running in high school and whatnot. I graduated from Weslaco High School. My only year I went to school in Texas, and that was the only year I did not play soccer because I used to go to school in California, and of course, weather-wise, is San Diego, California has one of the most beautiful weather you can think of. And then I moved to the armpits of hell over in Weslaco, and I remember the first time I got in the field, and I'm like, you guys play in this damn weather? Like, how can you guys play in this weather? And that was the one reason why I quit playing soccer. And the other reason was in California, they don't care what type of soccer cleats you use. I used to wear like the red, white, and blue ones, the ones that Cuauhtemoc Blanco used to use.
Yeah.
And I just said how old I am, basically. And when I went to practice, they saw my soccer shoes, and they're like, "Oh, son, we'll let you play like train with these, but if you play a game, you got to wear either black or purple, maybe purple." And I'm like, "Nah, screw this. All my soccer shoes are colored. They're not black or purple." And so I quit
Yeah.
as a teen. I quit soccer
That.
that day, man. And then I didn't run until I was like in 2018 as well, actually, now that I think
Yeah.
about it. And I got introduced to a 5K here in Houston, the Minute Maid, which is now called something else. I forget what it's called now.
Yeah.
And I got hooked, and I got hooked more than anything because of the medals, dude. Because I wasn't a fast runner. I was not a fast runner at all. I finished it around 30 minutes, which I was happy with the time because I mean, there's no really metric for it when it's your first time, you know.
Oh yeah, sure.
And medals got me, man. The medals. If I'm not in the actual place where I usually do my recordings because it's being used by someone right now, but I have a wall full of medals because in 1 year I think I tried to run like 2 or 3 races each month.
Oh wow.
So yeah, so
Yeah.
that's why I
Got
say I'm a
hooked.
big, yeah, big time, big time. But I recently have lost a lot of weight too. I lost 40 pounds. So when you were talking about your 2250 5K, I just did one. What was it? Maybe 2 weeks ago, and I
Hmm.
did it in 2140 or something like that, which
Man, that's awesome.
which I have no idea how I did it, to be honest.
Yeah.
I have never ran that fast, but it's not about me, dude. Tangents. I told you I was gonna go on a tangent.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Hey, congrats on the PR.
Thank you, thank you, thank you very much. So you started with a 5K. One thing that really caught to me, and I guess I'm gonna go on another tangent, but it's about you.
Yeah.
You talked about, you're buying, getting your daughter a skateboard. That blew my mind, man, because when I was a kid, um, I told my mom I wanted a skateboard, and she told me if you want to skateboard, you're gonna have to buy your own skateboard because if you get hurt, it's not gonna be on my dime.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
hearing that is completely opposite of what I'm used to, you
Yeah.
know?
Well, the funny thing was though, like we made an agreement.
Yeah.
I said, if you sell your Xbox, you can afford to
Ah,
get your skateboard. So that was the
ah,
agreement. And as a young child, for her to give that up, because I know, like you're saying, like the concrete is not very forgiving.
no, it's not.
Skating on a ramp, like so I had skated in middle school just for a little bit. So when we
Yeah.
did that, we sold her Xbox.
Uh-huh.
I took her to the mall to Zoomies and when I was living in Beaumont,
Yeah.
and we got her set up. We got her helmet, and I made her ride in the driveway for a couple of weeks. And we had a nice little skate park there in Beaumont, and I
Hmm.
was like, "We're not going to the park until you can kick turn and you're comfortable on the board." So YouTube these days, she starts watching videos, and
Yeah.
next thing you know, she's like, "Hey, Dad, can you get on my skateboard and ride around, the park on some of the ramps and things?" So I hopped on, and next thing you know, I'm having too much fun being an adult kid, and next thing you know, I'm buying my own skateboard. And we skated for like I think almost 5 years.
Oh, wow.
We lived in Beaumont for 13 years. We were going to Houston. We were going to Lake Charles. Like we would go skate 3 to 5 hours. That's
Oh,
why I lost all
wow.
that weight. It's just because
Yeah.
I like skating quarter pipes.
Yeah.
And the skate park in Beaumont was like
Hmm.
circular. And so I'd
Yeah.
go from quarter to quarter, quarter to quarter, just burning calories.
That's awesome.
But that's the funny story of how I got my cardio back was literally skateboarding hours a week. So
Yeah, that's definitely the first time I've heard that here at the podcast. That most people say, "Oh, I started running and then I incorporated this or that," but skateboarding, helped you lose some weight and made you faster. And so maybe that's a key of success. You need to
yeah.
skateboard 5 hours or something like that and start, losing that weight. But I just had to bring it up because it was a funny thing. It made me think about when I was a kid and I had
Yeah.
to go buy my own skateboard and then.
Yeah.
I remember one thing after buying my skateboard, maybe a month later, I thought I was a pro skater and I tried to jump this like 15 stairs.
Oh,
I missed
good.
it. I missed it by one step, man. One step. I
Wow.
should have bailed. Honestly, I should have bailed because you could tell when you're not gonna make it. But
Yeah.
I was like, I'm committed. I'm jumping it, and it clipped the back of the board. It broke it, of course, and I fell forward and I dislocated my shoulder. And
No.
so some old man saw me that I was, in pain. So he grabbed me. He did whatever he did to put it back on. But I told my friends, don't tell my mom that I dislocated my shoulder because she will not let me skateboard
Yeah.
ever
Yeah.
again.
It's done.
Yeah, and this thing got purple. Like it was purple. So I had to wear a shirt even when we went to bed. I could not show that shoulder at all. And my mom would touch the shoulder. I'm like, oh my God, like it hurt
Yeah.
so bad.
Yeah.
But yeah, the crazy things you do when you want to skateboard. But it's funny thing, like I mentioned to you, I did not do any type of running or physical activity after I graduated high school,
Yeah.
and running was has been now since 2018. The one sport that I have been very dedicated to, I guess if you want to say.
Yeah.
But
Sure.
it's crazy how you pick up a sport and you fall in love with it, and then you become very competitive with yourself. Like you say, you're very competitive. So 5K, what was the 5K that you did? Do you remember the name?
That was the Young Life. I don't know. I think there's Young Life pretty much in every town, but the Young Life 5K, that's what it was. But
Okay.
what's crazy is back then in 2018, they were actually, I didn't win any prize money that year, but they actually give out prize money at that little 5K, which
Oh
is
wow.
pretty crazy. I think the guy that won it the first year, I think he ran like a 35 something, and he just blew the doors off everybody in Lumberton, Texas,
Nice, nice.
and I think they were paying out like, I think they paid him like $200 for winning the race. I'm like, what? So,
Damn, that's good money.
yeah,
That's a couple of six packs and a nice steak dinner.
yeah, yeah. So, but yeah, that first 5K, man, that's when it was in January of 2018 that year, and
Yeah.
yeah, and so when I lived in Beaumont, and
Mm-hmm.
so there was some local runners that were experienced that ran
Yeah.
marathons and half marathons, and they met up at the wellness center in Beaumont, and
Mm-hmm.
um, I was scared as all get out to go run with anybody. And I remember I went to my first like meetup at the
Yeah.
On the Run, the store in Beaumont, and they
Okay.
would do their little social runs on Wednesdays, and
Mm-hmm.
demo, Brooks might be there with shoes, and that was my first experience with those types of runs. And I remember starting that run with some of the pretty fast folks.
Mm-hmm.
And we start running, they start talking to me. I'm like, we're gonna have to talk while we run. Like, I'm really gonna show myself out. So,
Oh my God.
yeah. So that was, and getting over that fear and getting into the run groups, like that's what made me better. I
Yeah.
just latched on to all the experienced guys, and I was like, teach me your ways. Like, I preach to my kids and just like be coachable. Like I grew up as an athlete, and
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to be the best soccer player on the planet. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. And so just teach me, I
Yeah.
want to learn. So,
Yeah, and you are right. That's the one thing that you have to be. You have to be approachable. You have to be humble enough to be able to take, feedback and learn from other people. And I think one of the biggest things that you said is something that I myself do as well. I try to run with people that are like faster than me,
yeah.
with the purpose that me running faster at a pace that I'm uncomfortable will make me feel more comfortable in later on. If I run, nothing wrong with people that run, a certain pace that maybe is a comfortable pace, but you're not really learning your potential, I guess, if that's the right
Hmm.
way to say it. So yeah, I'm very, very big on, running with people that, are gonna push me to a new limit, and um,
Yeah.
thanks to that, I think my running journey has been very good because I've been able to PR on most of my races. One that I have not is a marathon, but I'm still working on it, and I know with this new weight loss that something good will come out of it. But I'm glad that you brought that up. That you were running with the big guys, per se,
Yeah. Yeah.
because that really teaches you a lot about yourself. But you went to On the Run. You did not know that you could run and run, which I feel your pain, man, because
Yeah.
no matter what pace, dude, no matter what pace I'm running, I could be running 10-minute pace or
Hmm.
8-minute pace, and I sound the same. Like I sound like I'm running out of air because I'm trying to run and concentrate on my breathing, and then I'm like, so
Yeah.
you guys are gonna go have tacos? Like I sound horrible, horrible,
Yeah.
doing it. So what what was the next race? What did you decide to do, or how long did it take you to get into another race to see what you can do, I guess?
So I just a couple 5Ks, just kind of
Hmm.
I ticked the time down. I think I got into like the upper 20s,
Okay.
that same year. And
Hmm.
then I was like, started to up the mileage. I had this like little 5K loop in my neighborhood when I first started running. So I just run that little loop. And then I was like 12 miles a week, 20 miles a week. Then I think I ran like a 10-mile run. I was like, I'm going to do a double digit run.
Yeah.
And then I started looking around and I was like, man, at the time I was living in Beaumont. So I was like, Houston's my big hometown because I grew up in Lake Jackson, Texas, south of Houston.
Okay.
That's where I grew up and went to high school at Brazowood High School. And
Hmm.
so Houston's my big hometown, played soccer I know Houston like the back of my hand.
Nice.
So I signed up for the Houston half in that year in 2018. So I was like, I'm gonna run my first half marathon, like
Yeah.
scared, but I want to do it. So I ran
Hmm.
that in 18 that same year. And I think my first marathon, it was like a 140 half. I ran a 146
Oh, wow.
in my first one. And then I guess it was February the next year. I I signed up for the Woodlands. One of my best friend he lived in the Woodlands at the time.
Okay.
And so we decided we were going to run. And so that next year, just a couple months later in February, I ran I think 138. I ran a 138. And then I signed up for the Pearland Half Marathon, which is what the Woodlands is in February.
Hmm.
I think it's March. Because I was like, I can run faster than that. So I think I shaved like 20 or 30 seconds off and I ran like 138 low or something like that. I
Oh,
ran
wow.
138 high. And then so I did that, and then the next year I didn't run any like bigger races, but then I started training more seriously. And the
Yeah.
guys in Beaumont that I was training with,
Hmm.
I was just getting faster and faster and faster. And on Saturdays we'd meet at the wellness center. We run this 8-mile loop, and I just started running it quicker. And so I signed up for the Houston half again in October,
Hmm.
and I told my buddies that I was going to try to break 130.
Oh,
Like
wow.
I'm going from 138 to sub 130. Like I can do
An
it.
8 minute gap. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. And so they had Pacers, and I had never even thought about joining a Pacer group. So
Hmm.
I remember that morning I hopped in with the Pace group, the 130 Pace group, and I was like, guess I'm going to hold on for dear life and see what happens. And so on that course, when you do that out and back out towards 610, and then you turn around, you come back.
Hmm.
We got to, it was almost, we're about to click off mile 10, and the Pacers were like, if you feel good, it's time to go. The last 5K, go get after it. So I was like, I actually feel good. Like I trained. That's why I didn't race a whole bunch that year, because I was like,
Yeah.
I want to make a big jump.
Yeah.
And so I hit the gas, and I honestly, I wish I would feel that good in a race more often, but I end up running a 128,
Wow.
like 30:35 or something like that. So,
So basically a
I,
10-minute PR.
yeah. And
Wow.
so walking, as a runner, how hard, training is, and, making jumps and leaps like that. So
Yeah.
all the guys in Beaumont they were so proud of me. So it was like, the experienced guys are pumped, the training paid off. And that's when I
Yeah.
started really buying into like, there's a system to this. Like there's a formula especially every athlete's different, but
Hmm.
there's a formula for me, actually getting the mileage up, starting to do speed workouts. Like what's that? Like going to the Lamar University track and, Westbrook track, and starting to actually put some speed down and, run with some purpose.
Yeah.
So after that 128, that was in 19.
Hmm.
So I'd actually did the Woodlands 3 years in a row. So I did the Woodlands, like I said, in 19, which
Hmm.
was a 138
Yeah.
that year. And then after I broke 130,
Yeah.
in 20, I went back to the Woodlands again,
Hmm.
and I ran a 126. I went
Wow.
from 138 the year before, and then dropped it to, the sub 130 to the 128.
Yeah.
And so the next year at the Woodlands, 126. And then that's when I moved. I moved during to Hutto actually during the pandemic. I was a
Hmm.
store manager of the company I worked for, and we moved during the pandemic, and I lived in Hutto, and I hooked up with my run group. It's my team. I coach my own. We'll talk about that some more, but
Hmm.
doing my coaching in my own little group. But I was running for a team called Surge, which I'm still
Yeah.
part of, and that group had spun off of Rogue Cedar Park, and they had created this group to be a sub elite masters group. So it's
Okay.
like, it wasn't a requirement, but the goal was that everybody that was in the group was a masters, 40-year-old runner like us, um, that was sub three marathoners. And that was the goal. We were trying to, build a team of,
Yeah.
quote unquote sub elite
Hmm. Hmm.
masters runners. So I hooked up with that group when I moved here. A friend of mine, you may have heard of him. He's a great trail runner and marathon runner. His name's Brian Fagan. He
Yeah.
paces Austin with us too.
Hmm.
So he stopped me on Strava, and not messaged back then, but he commented on one of my runs, and he was like, Walnut Creek on Saturday at 7 a.m. if you want to join me. And I was like, I'd never run trails before. and and I started to look this guy up. I was like, this dude's legit. Like, he's a
Yeah.
legit runner. And I met him. I told my wife, I'm going. Like,
Yeah.
it might open some new doors for me here in Austin.
Yeah.
And so I showed up. We ran, I don't know, like 12 miles on the trails. I even had my first spill. I ripped open my thumb. And then he was like, hey, there's a group that just spun off of another group, and I think you would, jive with them, and I think you would fit in well. And so I went. He took me to a long run, and I never left. Like,
Oh wow.
because they were all faster than me. I was like the fourth slowest guy, and I mean amongst quick people, and I'm over there just like, okay, all right, let's just buckle down and follow their lead, and let's get
Yeah.
to training.
Yeah.
So our coach at the time, Julia, just had us like machines. In 20, I went 126 at the Woodlands, and I went back the next year after surge training, and I ran a 119.19.
Wow.
Yeah. So after, serious training with some really awesome masters runners that are, 240, 250, Julie was our coach at the time. She was a female that had run, I think her PR was like 247.
Oh wow.
So I just jumped in the deep end with the big boys.
Yeah.
But that was the journey before, that the halves are kind of really what got me going. And I didn't run my first marathon until Houston. I ran Houston in 20.
But think about it, like if you had not met this guy through the
Yeah.
Strava invite that he's commented,
Hmm.
and you had not gone to that, he had not ever told you about this group, like where do you think your running would be, time wise and journey wise, I guess. It would definitely, I mean, I'm pretty sure you would be hitting some awesome numbers. But thanks to all that pushing that they did and all that training, man, what did you said 119, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
119.19. Yeah. And I
that's
had
that's
trained,
crazy.
I was honestly, I mean, just being honest, I was probably
Yeah.
in like 118 mid shape.
Mm-hmm.
And I took a gel. I wasn't even really that used to taking gels all the time. Honestly,
Yeah.
nutrition wasn't on point back then. But I took a gel at like mile, I think it was like 9.5.
Yeah.
And it was my first Morton gel. I had taken them before in training, but like in a race.
Yeah.
And the consistency of that gel,
Mm-hmm.
uh, I kind of like threw it back up, and my heart rate spiked, and I
Oh
slowed
wow.
down. And I can't remember her name. She's an elite runner there in Houston. There was a group of them, and she ran up on me. I just lashed on her while she dry heaved the whole last 2 miles, and we just ran shoulder to shoulder,
Yeah.
and we dropped some sub 6 minute miles, and
Wow.
end up still running that 119. So yeah, I mean, to answer your question, really, like I don't know where I would have been
Yeah.
without that surge group and my awesome teammates that I've been running with for
Mm-hmm.
years. Um, you know, you can be determined. There's people that run on their own and
Yeah.
can make strides in their times and their
Yeah.
but I always tell people, man, you got to get with the group. Find the people that that have like-minded mentalities and
Hmm.
goals, and that's exactly what Surge was for me. So
Yeah. No, I 1000% agree with you because for the most part, when I started seeing the potential of me running longer distances,
yeah,
not so much time wise because I'm concentrated on time because I have faith that maybe I can qualify for Boston,
yeah,
but my I think the way I worked out more is how far I can make this body go. I've already
yeah,
done a 5K. I did very well. I did a 10K. I did a half. I did a full. And I always wanted to see how much I can put this body in these races. And but then I started also realizing, hey, I can run fast, but this is me doing things on my own. Like you mentioned,
yeah,
you could be very dedicated, but ever since I got a running coach and I started hanging out with people more that are faster than me, like I mentioned to you,
yeah,
and doing long runs with a running group that is 100% dedicated to training, not so much socially and stuff like that. Um, and I've seen that difference in me now running and see how that I can actually get faster. And
yeah.
I think that little light of hope for Boston has gone a little bit bigger, not too big, but a little bit bigger. Gives me hope that I might be able to do it. Maybe when I turn 60, 65, I might be able to do
Now we
it.
we can get you there quicker. We can get you there
But
quicker.
no, it's definitely given me that light of hope, because especially this year, I with all that loss of weight that I did, I definitely feel much faster. Like when I was telling you about that 5K I ran, that it was I think it was just 7:05 average pace,
Yeah,
which you would ask me a year ago, 7:05, you got to be kidding me.
yeah.
There's no way in hell I can hit 7:05. And finishing the race, I was so shocked because I felt great. Like I wasn't out of breath, I wasn't feeling
Hmm.
nothing. It felt great. So that is giving me a little bit of hope that, if I continue to, stay in the weight that I am, maybe lose a little bit more, but very little. But, just continue with that discipline and run with people that are faster than me, run with people that have the knowledge that are Boston qualifiers, that have obviously the recipe on what to do, that can help me.
Yeah,
And I think I'm seeing it much brighter, but
yeah.
it's crazy. You were dedicated to halves. And so 2020, that's you did Houston, right?
Houston. Yeah, I did Houston. So I, kind of threw together a little training block with the
Mm-hmm.
guys, and so just bumped the mileage up. And I was 39 at the time, and I told the guys, I said, I'm going for my BQ, and they were like, "What? You're gonna go?" Yeah, I was like, "If I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it." Like,
Yeah.
I think that you know, breaking 130 in the half, I was like, I can do it.
Yeah.
I think have enough will to get after it. And
Yeah.
so I told the guys, and they almost kind of laughed at me. They thought I was pretty crazy because, I
Yeah.
mean, as you know, you don't really know what 26.2 miles is going to bring, no matter how fit. I mean,
It
the
doesn't matter.
marathon
Yeah.
owes you nothing. I tell everybody, and you
Hmm.
hear that all the time. It owes you nothing. Like it can chew you up and
Hmm.
spit you out like at
Yeah.
any time.
Oh yeah.
So that year we actually had that cold year. I don't know if you ran in 20, but
Yeah.
20, it was cold and it was windy. I
Hmm.
mean, it was blowing 16, 17 miles an hour that year. It's kind of like this past year. And so I went out there and, I should have gotten with the pace group. I mean, I don't know why I didn't. Um, there's a guy named Casey. He lives up in the Woodlands, Conroe area.
Hmm.
And I didn't know him at the time, but like a dummy, I let him get behind me, and I was, he was drafting behind me. He was smart, experienced runner,
Yeah.
so my pacing was kind of like all over the place, trying to battle the wind and the big boy miles when you hit 20.
Hmm.
Um, he ended up dropping me there, so I fell off pace And so at that time, the BQ time for 39 was 3:05,
Hmm.
and I didn't understand even the cutoff times, or
Yeah.
any of that kind of things. But
Hmm.
I was like, I'm going to break 3:05, and those, like I said, that last 10K was just that's where it got me. But I ended up finishing at a 3:05:54.
Wow.
So my first marathon was a
So you
3:05:54.
Boston qualified, but I guess not enough for that buffer, I guess.
No, so I would have had to gone sub 3:05. So I was 54 seconds over.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so no BQ. But the guys, I was welcome home in Beaumont. They loved on me pretty good,
Oh yeah.
and
Yeah.
that lights the spark even further. And your work, teammates. We didn't have a running team, but your buddies at your run
Yeah.
group that
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
hook up with every Saturday.
Hmm.
Um, and my buddy Bruce in Beaumont was like, "You got something going on, dude. If you ran a 3:05:54 in your first marathon, you got something going
Oh
on."
yeah. Yeah, for sure.
And so, it was very inspiring, and, the encouragement that people gave me, and to kind of sit back, I guess, a couple months later to kind of realize kind of what happened,
Yeah.
kind of soak that up. I was like, what do I do next? And so right after that, so that was in January, in 20, and then I moved right after that.
Hmm.
And that summer. Well, yeah, it was that summer when the pandemic. I moved,
Yeah.
and then I hooked up with the surge group, and signed up. We signed up for CIM, and there was four of us ran that race. And I went out there to go run CIM. I was like, okay, this downhill stuff. I started training hills in Austin, and they came very natural to me. And so we went out to CIM that year in December of 21.
Hmm.
And funny story is, don't try this at home, kids, but I end up having alcoholic drinks the night before the race.
Ooh. Okay.
Yeah, and I trained for my coach and we were shooting to break 250. And my
Okay.
second marathon, like it was, and it, like I said, it was all that surge group.
Yeah.
Like maybe I can run the low 250s, maybe break 250, but I was training at probably like 248, 249 paces.
Okay.
And dummy move, never will happen again. My rule with my wife is you have to bring a friend or stay at home. I love you, and she understands now. But I was on pace. I was on like I think I was right at 250 pace through mile 16, and
Hmm.
then the cramps hit. I mean, the cramps hit
Oh
like
man.
no. My wife was, CIM's point to point course, and she was
Yeah.
supposed to be at mile 18, and
Yeah.
I had already decided, like, I'm DNF, like it's over, like I'm not a quitter, but it hurts so bad.
Yeah.
And their Uber couldn't get to mile 18 quick enough,
Uh-huh.
so I had to tough it out. I
Oh
was like, all
wow.
right, so that meant to happen. So,
Yeah.
and then my buddy George, my teammate, ran by me, and he was so tunnel vision, he didn't even see me. I was like, "Go get him, George." He didn't. We laugh about it till today. Like he didn't even remember seeing me.
Yeah.
And then so my coach Julia, she ran up on me. She was like, "Come on, Valdez, pick it up. You can still break three." So
Yeah.
she wanted to at least break three. She was coming back from an injury, so I latched onto her for a couple miles, and I think I ran a couple sub 7 minutes, and I was like, "No, I can't." So when I came through the finish line at CIM, me and my wife laugh about it. She was scared to death because I looked like death. And so I remember coming through the finishing chute, and I held my hands up,
Yeah.
and I told my wife, I was like, "Well, at least I held my hands up." She was like, not really." And you want a good laugh? Go look up the finishing
I
video of me
will.
in
I will.
2021.
Yeah.
I pretty much almost ran into the metal time clock. So I had to like dodge it with my head, and
Oh
I
wow.
finished. But I broke 3 hours. I
So it's
still
still
ran it.
PR. Yeah. It's still PR.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I ran a 2:58:25, and then the next year I was like, okay, what's the next marathon? And they all wanted to go to Chicago.
Okay.
So I signed up for Chicago and got to be in Corral A, which was an experience. And you get to see the pros, and
Mm-hmm.
you turn around and look at all these people behind you, and how electric that city is. I actually have my Chicago shirt on right
Yeah, I
now.
saw that and pretty sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that year, I didn't want to go too crazy. I was like, I have lofty goals, but let's just keep chipping some time off, right? Because I'm still not that experienced,
Yeah.
only my third marathon. So I ran Chicago, and I took 5 minutes off my time exactly to the number. I ran a 2:53:25 in
Wow.
Chicago. And so that was an awesome experience. That
That
race is
that that
so
had to
electric.
put you in BQ time by then, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. So with CIM, I qualified for Boston, and then Chicago, I qualified for Boston. I had some family stuff come up and was going to sign up, and I just till this day I still have not run Boston. I'm going next year though.
Okay.
I told my wife that it's going to happen. We're going.
It's
So
like no family things, please.
no, no, yeah, yeah. Fingers crossed, fingers
Yeah,
crossed.
for sure, for sure.
But yeah, I did get my BQ times, and so that'll come. But very thankful for that. And then the next year, I was like, okay, what's next? Like, what do we do next? So I trained really hard. We signed up for Indianapolis, and that
Okay.
was in 23.
Uh-huh.
So Indianapolis, we had great weather that year. Really, almost little wind, and I was shooting for that 245, 246 range,
Yeah.
around there. It was now it's coming back to me. It was pretty humid that day, so
Mm-hmm.
that was the only thing. It was like 98% humidity in
Oh, wow.
Indianapolis. I think it was like 46, 47 at gun time.
Yeah.
It got in the 50s at the finish time. So we were like, okay, this humidity could play a role, trying to run that fast.
Yeah.
And so me and my coach adjusted, and she was like, she told me, she was like, I think you can run 6:25 pace all day right now, which was crazy to hear. But
Yeah.
I was like, okay. She was like, go out, 6:30s, and then try to, knock it down.
Mm-hmm.
And so I shared some miles with a buddy of mine that was my teammate. He started his own team, but Nils and I ran together through the half, and he felt a little better than I did, I guess. After mile 14, he took off, and I ended up catching him. And then I made this sharp right turn. If anybody's ever run Indianapolis, there's a turn that's pretty tight. And I had a guy that was on my left hip, and we were just clocking down miles. And I started feeling good. So we're starting to run like 6:17, 6:18, just boom, boom, boom. And I took that right turn too tight. I mean, like, I love the curve in the track. I almost felt like I was running it, that tight.
Yeah.
And my whole right leg, my calf and my hammy just completely locked up just from that movement. That's, that's why I tell people, like, you got to be careful on, that late in the race, even, pushing off that hard.
Yeah.
And so that the guy literally, he told me, he was like, man, you took that turn too tight. And I was like, yeah, I did. And so I tried to hang with him for a little bit, and I was like, no, I got to slow down. So I got into like I think I ran like I think my slowest mile was like a 6:45.
Okay.
Which was a lot different than the 6:18s. And then my buddy Nils, he ended up coming and catching me.
Okay.
And so he got his mojo back. He took a gel, and so he caught me, and we were teammates for years. So I was like, let's finish this thing together, dude. So we bit back down and got back into the 6:30s. I think we ran some high 6:20s, and I ended up running a 2:47:55.
Dang, dude.
Yeah, so that was number 4. So 2:47:55.
So has there ever been a marathon that you've done that you did not PR, man?
well, that's funny you say that, because Houston, I signed up for Houston. I didn't race. Indy was in 23.
Yeah.
So in 24, I had some stuff come up. I was still training hard. I was still did some local races.
Yeah.
And so I signed up for Houston in this past year.
Yeah.
So a whole year off of not running 26.2. I did pace, which we hadn't talked about, but I was still pacing marathons. And I decided, all right, you know what? I'm going to stay local. I told my wife I'm not going to travel for a big
Yeah.
marathon. We had some stuff come up. So I was like, we'll stay local. All my family lives in the Houston area. Stay with my best friend. He was racing, and I was coaching him. So I was like, and I had some other athletes that were running the marathon. So I limped into Houston. So in middle December training, I just had overdone it. My problem, which I'm fixing now, is I just wasn't doing any strength work. I was just believing in the
Just working.
consistent miles. And
Yeah.
when you have big goals of, breaking 245, breaking
Yeah.
240, like you can't get through those training blocks without some form of strength training.
Yeah.
And me being a masters runner, I'll be 44 in a couple of days,
I know.
and
Yeah.
it just wears on you.
Mm-hmm.
So when I got injured, I started having some real hip issues, and I started compensating for that in some of those big workouts, and
Okay.
then it moved to my calf. So I was running like 2 or 3 days a week. Well, I mean, 3 or 4 weeks out from Houston after
Yeah.
having the best block. I mean, just it was phenomenal. I was like, I'm going to break. Like it's going to be, I'm shooting for sub 245. And I announced it on social media, like, not as hardcore as a Nick Bear,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
but I told everybody like, it's gonna happen. Um, and, and then I got injured. So
Ah.
the whole thing was, okay, I'm going to get to the start line and we're going to roll the dice.
Yeah.
Like I'm going to go out with my buddy CP, my teammate. I was like, we're going to go out together and we'll see what happens. I'm going to leave it out there, and
Yeah.
if I have to slow down, or I have the day I want, or say even if I break 250,
Yeah.
that was goal A. I was like, can I hold it together at least, and then maybe not get that PR
Yeah.
that I was training for, but to hopefully break 250. So when I ran Houston, I came through the half. And I was run up by the Galleria and then came back through Tanglewood or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I came through the half at 124. So I
Wow.
was I was on pace, but then the hips just slapped me like, no,
Not,
no,
not
not
today.
today,
Not
not
today.
today.
Yeah.
So I remember it like when you cross 610, that's right almost at mile 19, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
My wife and my parents were there, and I was like, I got to straighten up because my hip was so gone. I felt
Yeah.
like my right leg was 3 inches shorter than my other leg. So I was literally running like this, like hobbling. Um, and I just kept having to slow down 630 pace, 640 pace. Then I got into the low sevens and just held that. Saw a couple of my buddies coming in. You probably know Chris Gonzalez
Mm-hmm.
over
Yeah.
there.
I've never, I don't think I've ever met him, but I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, over coach at excuse me, at Grit Training.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I saw his grit group, and they gave me my last hoorah, and I was like, all right, I got to finish this thing. And I was doing the runner's math. I was like, I can still break three. I can.
Yeah.
And the icing on the cake was when I started to almost get when you get to the finish, like where the Houston half is, right when you come into
Mm-hmm.
downtown.
Oh, yeah. 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 Allen
All of a
Parkway.
sudden, yeah, all of a sudden I look up and here's Clayton Young, the professional Olympic animal that he is.
Yeah.
He's running against the crowd, cheering people on. I was like, because he had raced the half. And I saw him and I was like, I'm gonna do it for Clayton. I'm gonna do it for myself, but
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
thanks, man. And so I got to the finish line, and I still broke three. I still broke
Nice.
three. So I ran 258, 30 something, I think is what it
Yeah.
ended up being. So I still broke 3 hours. I still got my BQ because I was worried about my Indy time falling off for Boston. So I was like,
Yeah.
I got to requalify at least. So I got
Yeah.
my Boston qualifier. So I did take a step back in that last one, but it was an experience. You
But
learn
still,
from all of them.
you did so well given the circumstances that you were injured, so that's kudos to
Yeah.
you for pushing through and still finding the motivation to finish a time that you still wanted, so that's really cool, dude.
Yeah.
24, if I'm not mistaken, I fell off the wagon completely that year. And I remember why. In 24, I was supposed to go to Berlin. No,
Hmm.
23, the year before I was supposed to go to Berlin, but me being my ADHD, I trained, I did everything, and then like a month, a little bit less than a month, my fiance says, "Hey, do you even have your passport?" I'm like, "No." I totally forgot about that.
Oh, shoot.
Yeah, that might be important, you know?
Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoopsies.
So I ended up at that time I was like, well, it already got I already had deferred it because of um I don't remember what injury. I think it was injury the year before, and I said they're not going to defer it again one more time. I was like,
Yeah.
I'm probably going to have to cancel. So I went to the website and like a dog with his tail between his legs. I'm like clicking, clicking, and then oh, deferral. Okay, cool. But since I didn't have nothing to race, other than January then 2024. I slacked off. Like I did not run much.
Yeah.
I did very little, using an excuse that I didn't have anything to train. And then right when 18 weeks before the marathon, when I was like, okay, time to, lock in,
Yeah.
that did not happen either. I got so lazy that in the mornings when I would wake up, usually to go run, it never happened. And so I was gonna not run Houston because I run it through Team Catapult, which is
Okay.
I do it through the charity, and I felt so bad. I was like, man, I raised the money and now I'm not even gonna run. And my fiance, don't feel bad. Like they got what they wanted, so it's okay. Like, don't feel bad. If you can't run it, then don't run it. And so one of my good friends from Austin, she said, "Well, come and run with me. I'm a very slow runner. You can pace me." And I ran with her, but that even at her pace, I was struggling so much. So
Yeah.
that listener out there that thinks I could run a 26 miles with no training, no, don't do it. Don't do it, man. No
Advise
matter
against
what.
it.
Yeah, and she's like about a 12-minute pacer, which in reality, it's a very, very easy race for me. But given the fact that I had not trained at all,
Yeah.
yeah, no matter what pace you go, it's not going to be good. And I ended up helping her get a PR. That was a cool thing about it. But the next year, this year, which was this year, I trained my butt off so I can get it done. And then I got hurt. I got hurt like in
Oh,
December,
man.
dude. A hamstring
Oh,
issue, man. And so my coach said, "Okay, are you good with your hamstring?" I was like, "Yeah, it doesn't hurt anymore, but I really don't want to go for those times because I don't want to re-aggravate this hamstring and then it's like
sure.
a 3-4 month sideline." So he's like, "Let's just go out there, like you said, go out there, see what you got. If you feel good, push a little. If you don't, just try to
Yeah.
keep a nice, consistent pace."
Yeah.
And so I told myself, because this was my seventh marathon, and I told myself, every single marathon, dude, every single marathon I've run, somewhere between mile 20 to 24, 25, 20, between 20 and 22, actually, cramps, cramps all the time.
No,
And
yeah.
and it sucked.
Brutal.
Yeah, Berlin last year when I finally were able to do it, beautiful weather, amazing weather, flatter than Houston, which that says a lot because Houston
Yeah.
is pretty flat.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Even flatter. No uphills at all, dude. Nothing.
Yeah.
I felt great all the way to mile 24, and I was gonna break my PR, which was 4 hours and 30 minutes. I was actually sub 4. When I got to mile 24, I was actually gonna hit like right about 4 hours.
Oh, yeah.
And right at mile 24, dude, I kid you not, right when I hit mile 24, cramps. So the last two
Yeah.
miles, dude, the last 2 miles, it took me 45 minutes to finish.
Oh, wow. Yeah. That's a tough one.
Yeah,
Jeez.
and then so I said, okay, I'm injured. I'm injured, kind of injured for 2025. So I said, let's figure out this damn problem with my cramps. So my main goal was to figure it out, and
Sure.
it worked out, man. I did not cramp at all the whole race.
That's
So
awesome.
that is, even though I didn't hit my times by a lot. Now I know what to do, what I need to take, how I need to
Sure.
do it. And now even my coach said, now that we have that on lock, let's start increasing the pace, and with these last 5Ks, I got a message from my coach. Oh, I see that you had nice negative splits and PR.
Yeah.
we're gonna increase that pace. We're gonna see some harder workouts. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, no.
Yeah.
But no, it's cramping has always been my biggest issue. So when you were talking about CIM that you got cramps, man, it's like PTSD for me, man. It
Oh,
sucks, man.
yeah.
You know, especially when you go to Germany, and that was my biggest fear. I even told my fiance, like, going to, like, if I go here to Houston and I cramp, okay, it's a local race. But when I went to the Berlin, that was my biggest fear. Like, I wanted to make sure that things were like correct. I didn't want to cramp, and it still did it. But I was still pretty happy because
Hmm.
by Berlin, every single race, like I mentioned, it was 2022 where I used to get it. At least now I got it till 24. So
Yeah.
there's progress, you know.
Yeah.
But I wanted to make sure that it was gone, and luckily it is. So I'm hoping that this year, man, I'm hoping this year I'm setting my goal really high, to hit 4 hours. That's my goal, a 30-minute PR. So we'll
I
see
love
what
it.
happens,
Go get
man.
it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And talking about Houston and your marathons, have you ever ran the Austin Marathon?
Yes. So I've never raced the Austin Marathon,
Yeah.
but I got into the pacing gig.
Okay.
Like I said, when Slim was actually the 310 Pacers, signed up
Yeah.
for that year, and I filled a spot. So I haven't raced the full, but I paced it in 20. I paced the 310 pacer,
Mm-hmm.
the 3 hour and 10 minute pacer, which is pretty awesome because at the time that was my Boston qualifying time.
Yeah.
So pretty big honor to pace your own age group for Boston qualifying. So I paced it in 22, 23, and 24.
Okay.
And like I said, I got lucky.
Yeah.
Luckily, I was really fit for CIM and all that. So my teammate Nils, the guy that I told you we finished
Mm-hmm.
Indy with, he was the 310 pacer. So he put my name in the hat. And the director, she called me up, and I got the spot. So I was really scared. I was like, now I got to run 310 on the Austin course, which we all know how hilly and brutal that thing can be for some
Mm-hmm.
folks, especially if you're not used to the hills.
Yeah.
So I paced it 3 years. Last year I stepped down because of my injury.
Yeah.
So I didn't commit to it. So last year was the first year that I hadn't paced in the last 3 years. I paced Houston and I paced Houston in 24. 24? Yeah, in 24. I paced Houston in 24. I gave up 3M, well, now the Austin International half, to go pace Houston. So I paced Houston 310 group because two of my friends were trying to Boston qualify. And so that was the year, it got pretty warm that year. Was it 24?
It
But
was
it got
23, I think.
23.
Yeah.
So
23.
yeah, when people start dropping out,
Yeah.
I had one girl from Dallas. She ran with me through 23 miles, and then she felt good, and she ended up running like a 3:08:30 something, I think. So I finished that race by myself. I had no one. My pacer that paced with me. Sorry to tell this story, buddy, but at mile 19, he was a 236 guy. He was like
Yeah.
27 years old.
Yeah.
At mile 19, once you come by 610 right there, where I was telling you
Mm-hmm.
where I saw my
Yeah.
parents.
Right before Memorial.
Yeah, right before Memorial, he's like, I got to use the restroom. And I was like, all right, man, you're fast, so I'll see you in a little bit. And I never saw him again that year because he started cramping real bad. And my buddies that I was pacing, that they end up falling off pace as well. Unfortunately, when we got to the finish line, they were like, hey, what happened to your pacer? And I was like, I don't know. I never saw him again. They were like, he was walking. I was like, oh, man. Like he ended up running like a 3:53 or something. Like,
Oh, wow.
yeah, yeah. So, but yeah, that speaking of cramps, but yeah, so, but just the pacing gig has been fun too.
You've done, you said you love Houston, you've done Austin. Is there any other places that you've paced, or just the local and semi-local areas here?
Yeah, just local. I had a pace group trying to get me up to go to Grandma's. I got asked to go pace another, I can't remember which marathon it was, another one on the East Coast,
Mm-hmm.
Marine Corps.
Okay. Okay.
Marine Corps, they wanted me to go pace that group too.
Nice.
But I haven't done that. What I do like about pacing though
Mm-hmm.
is is the practice, like nutrition. Like I think that's why I ran Indy so well. Like I know I didn't cramp because of my nutrition overall. I think it
Yeah.
was, you're always on that fine line when you run a marathon that you can catch a cramp, but that's why the nutrition's so important.
Yeah.
So I like pacing because I can practice that. So it was like, especially in Austin, when you're running those
Hmm.
hills and you're more fatigued from, all the elevation gain.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's been fun pacing, to hone in on the skills.
Well, this upcoming year, I'm going to pace my same friend that I paced in 2023.
Hmm.
Um, we're gonna. She asked me to pace her for Austin Marathon, and I've never ran it. So I'm hoping everything will go as planned. Given that I live in Houston, and there's not a lot of uphills or stuff like that, but I do have Kima, which Kima has the bridge, so I can definitely
Sure.
take advantage of it. But I'm excited. It's gonna be for me. It's gonna be an interesting start of the year because of course I'm doing Houston since I'm trying to get hit Legacy. And then
Yeah.
February, of course, Austin Marathon, and then in April I got London Marathon. So within 3 months, I'll be doing three. In 4 months, I'll be doing three marathons, and that's because I want to do it, but
Yeah.
the law of the land, aka the wife at that time already, she will be my wife finally. She won't let me do CIM because then it would be
Oh,
December, January, February, and then April. You know,
yeah.
I'm getting up there in age. That's the excuse I tell her. I'm getting up there in age. Right now I can do it. Let me just do as many as I can before I can't do it. Really bad excuse, but
Yeah.
she declined that one. I even tried to play it's gonna be a very cheap trip because I have a good friend of mine that I used to work with that lives in Sacramento. So
Okay.
she
Bonus.
she
Yeah.
even told me don't even get a hotel. We will you could stay with us, and if we need to take you to the starting line, we can do that. And not even like that. She's like, nope, that's not a race you can do this year. And she's like, and that's
Yeah.
probably a race you probably can't do any year because you're doing Houston. I'm like, man, that sucks.
Yeah. Well, you
But
got a busy schedule, man.
yeah, I try to stay busy, man. For me, staying active is the best thing because I work from home. Monday through Friday, I spend a lot of time in the house. So Saturday and Sunday for me, I spend as
Hmm.
much time as I can outside. If it's my running, working on my car, or going on a trail with my dog, I try to spend as many hours outside. So I try to
Yeah.
stay active because that's the only way I think my mental health won't take a big hit. Staying home. I started staying home because of the pandemic. They sent us home, and then I never went back to the campus, unfortunately. But
Yeah.
for me, it's so important to be active. So running marathons have been something that I try to at least do one or two per year,
Hmm.
just so I can keep some sort of constant training. But now in August, what I'm going to do is I'm actually signed up for the Habanero 100, which is an ultra, the
Uh,
50K ultra here in right outside of Houston. So
yeah.
it's going to be interesting. It's the hottest time of the year. It starts at
That's
12
a warm race.
midday.
I've never been to it. I've heard plenty about it, but
Oh, let me tell you one thing. I went last year to help a friend of mine,
mhm.
to not pace him, but just keep him his hydration and everything when he came by to pick it up.
Yeah.
There were like five or six ambulances waiting, like they have them ready in case if someone needs help.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that tells you a lot how crazy this is. But
Yeah.
I love the heat. That's another difference, I think. um I thrive in the summer, and I hate the winter. I look like an Eskimo because I'll in the wintertime I wear like five or six layers because I just don't do good in the cold. Even though
Yeah.
you run your best races in the cold, I
Hmm.
love the hot weather, the humid, the hot weather. I just love it,
Ooh.
man.
Yeah, that's nah, I train pretty well in the heat, but like, yeah,
If
I
you
try to
didn't
avoid
have
it.
to, that would be better,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
right?
Bring me the colder weather, especially for the marathon. If I can set the temperature for a marathon at
Yeah.
gun time, it's probably gonna be like 38.
Oh
Like,
my God, no,
I,
that's too
I
cold.
love, yes. Yeah, that's like Houston this past year. It was cold, but like
Oh
once you
my
get
God.
moving, that
Yeah.
blood starts flowing. And I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, but yeah, 38 to 40. Yeah, that's my jam.
Mine is like a 45, 50. That's perfect weather. It's not too cold, not too hot. Yeah, this past year's marathon, I was freezing my butt off so
Yeah,
bad. And
yeah.
I hate it because then I have to change some of my strategies on what to wear. Because I
Hmm.
don't like wearing like long sleeve, like long jogger pants.
Yeah,
I
no,
only
no
run
way.
in shorts. The most I will do is put shorts on and the compression sleeves to cover the legs.
Yeah.
But that's the most. And this year I had to wear my shorts and then I got some jogger pants under my shorts.
Oh
And
yeah.
that I never do that. I never do that.
Sure.
But it was so damn cold, dude, that I don't think I would have made it, man. I honestly
Yeah.
probably would have been my first DNF. So, but yeah, I enjoy the heat. I know that summer miles will make better fall running. So that's what I tell myself. But now with Habanero, I really have to train in the middle of the day, like between 12 to like 4 o'clock, where it's the hottest
Yeah.
of the day, and then
Yeah.
train also in the middle of the night because since you're running either in the night or during the day, so it's going to be interesting. I'm going to start doing that next this upcoming weekend is going to be my start date. But um, let's talk about one thing that I noticed. You actually said it. You're a coach. When did you become a coach?
Um, it's been about a year now. I started coaching some athletes that I know in the Houston area and the Beaumont area,
Hmm.
and I've always been interested in the coaching part of things.
Yeah.
Especially when you're trying to share knowledge with athletes and trying to make folks better runners and understand kind of the scenarios that you get put into and training and mileage and
Yeah.
like we talked about nutrition, like all the things that go into making someone a better runner.
Yeah.
Right. I think good and proper coaching brings out so much in folks, as far as their talents and kind of just
Hmm.
tapping into, those systems and figuring it all out.
Yeah.
So I started coaching. Um, I didn't really give it a name off the bat. And so in my neighborhood, I live in Round Rock.
Hmm.
And in our neighborhood, there's not a, I live in kind of a newer subdivision. There's not a ton of trees. If they're pretty, they're not mature.
Yeah.
But so we don't have a lot of squirrels in our neighborhood. But whitetail bunnies, they're everywhere. They're so every morning when I go on my run, I'll see them out. It might be 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm out there running by myself, but I'm
Yeah.
out there running with the bunnies.
Oh,
So I
yeah.
always joke about that. There's times when I'm training in a marathon block and I can't meet the group and I'm out there doing mile repeats or like 800s on the road. Like I'm out
Yeah.
there, running 5:30 pace, doing crazy stuff. And the bunnies are always running there with me. They're usually running because they're scared of me. But sometimes I feel like I'm out there with, so
They're competing with you, man. I tell you, they're
yeah.
competing with you.
Yeah, so that's where the name Rabbit City Track Club came from.
Okay.
A lot of funny. One of my old teammates, he's kind of turned down the running a little bit, but one day he asked me, he was like, "Hey, who's this new group, Rabbit City Track Club, that you're running with? Is it like some new fast group that you spun off and running with? Because I see you doing some workouts with them, but I don't see anybody tagged in the runs." I was like, no, it's just me and the bunnies, man, right now. So that's where the name came from. Uh, so I talked to my wife about it. I was like, I'll start this little business, coaching, trying to help athletes,
Yeah.
again, like-minded athletes, people with goals. But funny because my wife, when people get to know me and they start asking me about my running and I start telling them my times, they're like, "Oh, man, you're real fast." Like, I'm just trying to get, run my first 5K or my first half
Yeah.
marathon. And they always say, "Well, you probably won't run with me." And my wife she interjects. She was like, "He runs with me," because I trained her for her first 5K,
Nice.
and that's what I love about it because I was like, no, I'll run with anybody, and I feel like I can give back to the running community, and again, athletes that it might be couch to 5K or some like my buddy was, I think we took 23 minutes off his marathon time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Another one of my athletes from Beaumont, it was his first marathon ever. And we ended up going 3:24 in his first marathon.
Wow.
I'm kind of mentoring some high school kids locally, and doing some coaching with some of them. There's a group here in Hutto. They call themselves the Huff and Hippos, which is funny.
Yeah.
So some of those athletes, they reach out to me and I help them out. But I got a few that I'm coaching right now. So that's where it all started. Like I said, just the passion, for the sport. I was like,
Yeah.
man, I love to coach and help folks out. So that's where Rabbit City Track Club started, man, was just that itch to help other folks out. And
Well, I mean, running has
journey.
given you so much, personally to you, and it's always nice to give back. So I agree, and that's something that I've been itching in becoming a coach, to be able to help other people. The same way my coach has helped me, into the same way running has given me a second chance into being an athlete,
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So it's interesting to see that. But right now, you mentioned about the rabbits. It's funny because I'm an ambassador for Rabbit. And I go do my track workouts. Usually those I do them by myself because it's early in the morning, and I have a middle school that allows us to go in the morning before they start their school day.
Yeah.
They let you do it, and same thing, man. Same thing. I'm running my like a hamster around the track,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden you see these rabbits just pop up. And I always tell my fiance, they know I'm a rabbit. That's why,
Uh-huh.
because I got my rabbit shirt, my rabbit shorts. They know I'm one of a rabbit too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what you're saying, that now it makes sense why it's called. I always thought that when I saw your page, I thought you were probably like had some sort of sponsorship with Rabbit. So I was like, oh, it
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah.
But now it makes more sense because it happens to me too. Like it never fails that there's a rabbit running around the
Uh-huh.
track with me, and it's like they're trying to show off that they're faster than me. I'm like, geez, I already know you're faster than me. Don't make me feel bad, man.
Well, maybe that's the next step. Maybe I need to get my own little rabbit thing going with
Yeah. For sure, man. But you know, it's an amazing story, dude, because it you just seem to be getting better and better every time, and I can tell that you have a lot of you love running, you love giving your time to people, like you said, for the kids and stuff like that. It's amazing to hear all this stuff, man, and um I can only imagine that you're training for something, right?
Yeah, still getting back through that injury.
Yeah.
It held me down for a lot longer than I anticipated. Seeing a PT, just trying to get through it now, getting re-energized. So I technically don't have anything on the books right now.
Okay.
I'm probably going to commit to, I thought about going back to CIM and get my revenge, right? And do it right,
Yeah.
so that still might be on the table. A couple of the athletes around here, they're running Philadelphia. But, again, hadn't signed up for anything. And I think maybe that's, needs to be my spark to get back, into that marathon, or
Yeah.
at least half. I was thinking about maybe doing that Houston half in October. I haven't run that race in many years. I'd love to go. And I know that's
Well, let
such
me
a
know,
great
man.
race.
Let me know, and I'll try to catch up to you, and if I see you out there, and it's a good time to do it because a couple years ago they had made it into a loop, a two
Yes.
six. Oh my God, it really was horrible, dude.
Yeah, my
Horrible.
teammate Ethan, he ran that year, because he grew up in the Tascasita area, so Houston's
Yeah.
his big hometown too. And so he went out there to run it that year, and yeah, he told me it was
I
pretty
mean,
bad.
it's bad for the regular runners, but the elite runners, it was horrible because yes, the first loop they were by themselves, of course, but on the second loop they were weaving through people,
Yeah,
and if I'm not mistaken,
I could
Houston
do it.
Half
Hold
is
on.
a oh okay.
Yeah, it's getting a little dark in here.
Yeah, I was like, man, he's walking away. Did I say?
Yeah. Excuse me.
Oh my God! It's like I'm going to dinner. Sorry.
Yeah. Something new
No,
for your podcast.
you're right. I was like, hey man, my light went out once. Now I got someone walking away from me. You know what? Maybe that makes it viral. I just remembered that
Let's go viral.
Dana White came out in a podcast once, and he literally walked out in the middle of the podcast saying like I'm tired of these podcasts and whatever, and he walked out. He like literally
Yeah.
walked out. So I was like, man, you just Dana White at me, man.
Something new for the podcast, man. Let's
Perfect,
keep
man.
it
Perfect.
fresh and
Perfect.
fun, right?
Hell yeah, man. But
Yeah.
no, it's damn, I already forgot what I was saying, dude.
We're talking about Houston and the
Oh,
hat and just the pros and all that stuff we were
yeah,
talking
dude, it
about.
was so bad, and they closed it down because they were doing those land bridges, so by
Yeah.
Memorial. But now it's back to normal. So yeah, if you decide to do it, let me know, and I'll sign up as well, and maybe I'll try to chase you and get a nice shiny half marathon PR, which I
Yeah, man.
have
Let's
not
let's
I have
go.
not done one, dude. Since I've been concentrated on these damn marathons, I don't think I've actually raced a half to try to beat my PR, which is an hour
Yeah.
48. But that would be nice. That would be nice to try. But we're basically here at the end of the podcast, man.
Yeah.
I do want to take some time to have episode 26, if I'm not mistaken, which was a good friend of ours, Slim. He had a question
Oh
for
yeah.
you. So we'll go ahead and
Okay.
give him a little bit of time just so he can ask the question, and then
Yeah.
you can answer as best as you can. Okay.
Okay. Awesome.
Alrighty.
You were a kitchen utensil.
Mm-hmm.
What utensil would you describe yourself as and why?
Man, that's that's a great question, man. Good job, Slim. Yeah, that keeps it fun.
Yeah.
I might have to go with kind of, I guess maybe the easy answer. To me, it seems like the easy answer,
Uh-huh.
but the kitchen knife, man. And as far as staying sharp, like, it thinks about, makes me think about being an athlete and, having these goals of, running the times, that I want to run,
Mm-hmm.
and being crazy enough to challenge myself to maybe break 240 one day. That's the end goal. But a knife, man, you got to stay sharp, keep your knife sharp,
Yeah.
especially
Yeah.
when you're trying to push yourself.
Yeah.
So that would be my answer to Slim's wonderful question.
Right, right.
Uh,
And now thinking about it that you're answering, I don't think he ever answered his own question. I'm gonna have to text him and tell him. So what are you?
oh yeah,
What kitchen utensil are you, buddy? You got away with it not telling us. So yeah, but that's a good question. That's a good answer because you want to stay sharp, for whatever
yeah,
comes up. So it makes completely sense. It would be my answer too. Because like you said, for whatever you decide to do in life or in running, whatever it is, you always want to be sharp and ready for it, So
yeah.
that makes completely sense. And what would be your question for our potential 20, I think 28, yeah, episode 28.
Uh, I think because I kind of live by this is like what is my end goal?
Mm-hmm.
So my question to the next guest is, if you could run any distance or
Mm-hmm.
any race with a PR mind or a goal and whatever that may be,
Mm-hmm.
what would you choose? Like if you knew it's not that it was a guarantee, but if if you could pick a race and a distance, like
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go break 240 at this race or
Yeah.
whatever that goal is, or I'm gonna break 130 and a half.
Mm-hmm.
If you could pick one scenario to achieve a goal,
Mm-hmm.
what would it be?
And what would yours be?
That's for me, the end goal is to break 240. I would go back to Chicago and run Chicago and break 240. So
That's awesome. That's awesome.
yeah, that would
And
be mine.
I would definitely go back to Chicago to do better than what I did. I did it in 2022. 2022, I think, or
Hmm.
2021. It was one of those years that it was pretty warm.
Yeah.
Um, and it was my first marathon, and I was not prepared. I cramped right at mile 11, even at that really, really early. And it was it
Yeah.
was it was a suffer fest all the way because I'm so hard-headed. I will not n- stop a race. No matter what I got to do, I'll do it. And I remember that race. I I think I hit a 450, something like that.
Hmm.
And I passed out, dude. I finished. I did the dumbest thing you can ever do after a marathon, which everybody that I've talked to says that's like a cardinal sin. I finished my marathon. I took off my shoes and I said, "Let me sit here in the grass for 5 minutes." Well, those 5 minutes turned
Yeah.
into like an hour, dude. I passed out for an hour. Nobody woke me
Oh
up.
man.
Nothing, dude. So
Really?
yeah,
Oh
yeah.
my
I
goodness.
guess because there's a lot of homeless people in the park. They probably thought I
Yeah.
was a homeless person. I don't know. And I got up. I was so stiff. Everything
Oh, I
hurt.
cannot.
I
Oh.
had to ask some person, like some tourists that were taking pictures.
Yeah.
Um, I had to ask them, "Can you please help me get up?" Because I could not get up, dude. It was the worst thing. And then a friend of mine told me when I told him the story, he's like, "Dude, ironically, after a marathon, the best thing you could do is take a shower and go out and walk
Yeah.
for a straight hour, hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. Let your legs, the blood flow still in your legs,
Hmm.
because if you sit, you get stiff. It's over. It's end game right
Oh
there.
yeah.
That's it. So I want to do that not because of me getting stiff at the end of the race, more
Yeah.
because I really want. I know I can do better in that marathon.
Yeah.
Because it's
For
also super
sure.
flat, man. Except for
Yeah, it is.
that damn last part where you turn to your right and then it's
Oh
all
yeah. Running up that little bridge, it
yeah.
feels like a mountain.
It
Yeah.
feels like a damn mountain, dude, but
It does.
I definitely know I can do better. So I think that that would be also something I would want to do. And in mine, if I were to be asked that question, time as well. I think I would want to hit that at least sub four, and work my
Yeah.
way down. Because I'm 43 years old. I know that getting into Boston is going to take a little bit more, which I'm all for the work. But I'm not going to go from a 430 to like a 310, right? It can
Yeah.
happen. It can
Oh
definitely happen
yeah.
if everything
Sure.
gets aligned. All the things get aligned. My nutrition, my everything is top notch. Yeah, it could happen. But
Yeah.
realistically, I gotta chip the time down and work on that. So my
Hmm.
goal for, like I mentioned to 2026 in Houston is try to get that 4 hour, 410 maybe. That's good. But anything by 4 or less than 4 would be great. That would be
Yeah.
a great day for me. So time would be the same thing for me, man. And I'm hoping that it will happen, and I'm hoping that you get better and you're injury free and you get back on the saddle. And
Appreciate it.
hopefully I'll see you. And maybe if you want to do that half marathon, definitely come to your hometown over here. And we won't have beers before the race.
No, no,
No,
absolutely not.
after for sure, man, for
Oh
sure, for sure.
yeah. Yeah. Well,
And
definitely
and
cheers.
and if you do come, you can come and hang out with the freaks. They throw a big after party after the Houston half, and they trust me, they know how to. Those kids know how to party, man.
Yeah.
But they're fun group of runners that they. It's one of my only social runs that I do that I enjoy because it's a whole bunch of young kids make
Yeah.
me feel old, but at the same time young at heart. So yeah, if you come, let me know, and we'll give you a little welcome back to Houston kind of thing, man. And
Yeah. Would love to.
maybe
Absolutely.
you can help me hit that at least 140 time. That'd be awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. Shoot. Depending on how this injury coming back from, if you ever need me to pace you, like that, I'd love to.
Awesome, man. Awesome, man. Hopefully I'll see you around soon. I should be going to Austin very soon. My final year as an Austin FC season ticket holder, so I'm trying to go to all the games that I can. So, disclaimer: I do not like Dynamo. I'm all about
Yeah.
Austin FC. So
Yeah.
to all those Austin FC haters in Houston, I'm sorry, but no.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I'm Austin FC too. Yeah.
Awesome, awesome.
So
You better say that because I will stop the recording and just leave. I will leave the exactly. So
I'm out. No, dude. No, for sure. Those games are so fun to go to.
it is,
So,
it is, it is.
Yeah.
It's awesome. But dude, I don't want to take too much of your time. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your story, and hopefully, we'll get to hang out and pace. Maybe you can pace me like you said, and
Yeah.
get better, dude, for sure. And we'll keep an eye on what you do next, man, for sure.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me on the show. It was fun.
Awesome, awesome. And you have yourself a good night. And if you haven't eaten, well, enjoy your meal because I'm pretty sure that's where you were leaving when you walked out. When you
Yeah. Yeah.
But,
My natural light was running out.
yeah. No, it was all good. It's all good, man. But yeah, have a good night, dude. Thank you very much, and we'll stay in contact for sure, man.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks. Take care.
Take it easy, man.
You too.
Bye bye.
Bye.